Hi, I'm Ansley Stevenson, Capital Improvements Project Manager, and we're back at Mifflin High School. Teachers have returned today, and we're here amidst the hustle and bustle of teachers unpacking and setting up their rooms. We wanted to take you on a guided tour one last time to see the finished product, so come along. We're here in the new Student Support Services area of Mifflin High School. Before, these spaces were scattered throughout the building, and now students and counselors have a private space to access all of those student support services. We're sitting here in one of our 3 new extended learning areas at Mifflin High School. They're all furnished slightly differently to allow a different posture for students and staffs. Some of them are more focused around technology, some of them are more focused around lounge and conversation to allow students and teachers to pick the space that suits their needs for the day. We're standing in one of our completely refreshed classrooms here at Mifflin High School. Throughout, you'll see new flooring, new ceilings, new lighting, our new sound system that allows for an even sound distribution throughout the whole classroom, and furniture that was customized for each teacher to suit their needs. Looking at the refreshed auditorium space, you'll see new seating, new theater curtains, new lighting and sound system to support our next big production here at Mifflin High School. Here in the relocated weight room at Mifflin High School, we have combined the weight room and the health classroom. So you'll see state-of-the-art, new weight equipment combined with flexible furnishings to allow us to use this space for after-school events, as well as after-school weight and strength training. Moving into the art and construction technology spaces, which were both refreshed here, you can see in the art room, we've got completely new seating for 72 students, which supports both of our art classes. We've added a lot of built-in cabinets to support all of those art materials needed to do all of the different studio functions for our high school art students. Looking at our construction technology space, you'll see a brand new dust collection around the perimeter. This will allow us to keep a safe, clean environment to teach our students the critical skills to become part of our modern construction technology world. At this project, we left no stone unturned. As you walk through the building, you will see upgrades throughout. Our hallways have been completely painted, upgrading with new ceilings and new lighting. Our cafeteria space has been refreshed, all new furniture, all new flooring, and all new lighting. Our brand new gymnasium space has been equipped with everything we need for the next big game. We have new bleachers, new basketball hoops, and a completely refinished gymnasium floor. When you walked through Mifflin High School last school year, it was a dark, outdated, uninspiring space for our young learners. When you walk through this year, you'll see a bright, refreshed space that allows our students to dream big and achieve more this school year and many school years to come.
The record last year was 3-10 because we only had 5 players, and the record this year is 7-9.
We was gonna make a team at Lynn McKinley if we had a coach or if we didn't, and we're having people come to our games to come watch us play.
Share the ball a little bit more now, and I actually see the team as like a sisterhood.
To go into an actual program that does have those type of losses, you feel like there's no expectation. And I seen from previous games that I had looked at that they actually were talented.
Araciana, she loves to get buckets. Shy, she's strong with the ball. She'll body anybody. Faith, she brings the energy if we feeling down.
Denny is doing real good. I love Denny. I got to play with my sister this year. She's a freshman.
Marion Franklin, Christiana Towns, she had 35 points, 25 rebounds, and 10 steals. She averages 18.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, 6 steals per game. Our Mifflin game that we had, Tamaya Harrington, she had 27 points, 5 rebounds, 13 steals.
It makes me feel more confident, start varsity as a freshman and play the whole game and make a lot of points with my teammates and a lot of assists.
Changing the culture means a lot to me. It makes me feel real good that people aren't just seeing Linden girls as trash. We here Monday through Saturday, so we really putting in the work, and I'm happy people are actually coming out and seeing us. We aren't just a team that's 3-10. We're an actual high school basketball team.
Once I actually did see Darthard and the program that he was actually running and how he was uplifting and actually caring, once they actually started to win games and to see their progress and to understand how much I did really care about them outside of just the game itself, it made them want to show up. It made them care. It made them want to actually work together and have a sisterhood to where they loved each other.
My brothers are Philip, LB, Chris, and Emmanuel. When I watch my brothers play, I look up to them and I play against them a lot. So it makes me a little tougher to play against girls.
The town's name is very strong in the community, and she's living up to her name.
My goal for Lynn McKinley is to win more games and set an example for little kids.
Being a senior is pretty bittersweet that the program is just getting together and I'm about to leave, but I'm happy it got together. Coach means a lot to me. She is actually my NOACAN advisor, so I be in her office a lot.
Miss Crenshaw, she makes sure I make it to individual workouts, things I need help with to be better.
She set up some team bonding for us. We do a lot of stuff on and off the court. I do enjoy playing against East since they are our rivals.
I have fun playing against Kennedy from Centennial, Kayla from Centennial, National.
For college, I would like to study stenography. College coaches should recruit me because I feel like I'm a good leader, I'm a good listener, and I have good discipline, and I can push myself.
She's always going to put 110% into whatever it is that she does. So a lot of the times whenever coaches are looking for that one player, that spark, Tamaya Harrington would be that person. I cannot wait to see the young woman that she is going to become.
I just want to do photography and still do basketball. College coaches should recruit me because I put all the work in. I'm very humble. I could make buckets, and I like to share the ball and communicate.
College coaches should recruit Christiana Towns because of her work ethic, the ability that she has, which is natural, and on top of that, she's very coachable. It's something different whenever you have someone to step on the court that has an athletic ability, that has a game that is different than a lot of players that do play the game, and you can still teach them something.
My name is William Stinchcomb, and I've been with the Columbus City Schools for 23 years.
My name is Mr. Dorsey Birdsong, and I'm a safety and security specialist.
My name is Anita Roman, and I am a Columbus City Schools bus driver.
My name is Sammy Gonzalez. I'm a food service manager currently at Briggs High School.
I know that if I'm not there every day and on time, you know, that student may not have a ride to school. And that weighs on me heavily. And I take pride in knowing that my students can set their clock on me. I'm always, it takes a lot for me not to come to work. It's important to come to work every day, be on time, because we may be the only way that student gets to school.
Seeing the kids years later and having them come up to me and say how thankful and grateful they were and happy that, I kept them safe in the district and, that I can't retire or leave the district until, their kids graduate.
This was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I didn't expect to live for this, but I love being part of the Columbus City School as a family. I just think because the building represents our districts, for me to see how clean the building is, I could take pride in my effort, and to put the cleaning and the organizing of the building, it just makes me feel a level of pride.
Peaceful mind can accomplish a lot of things. And when a student is hungry, their mind is oftentimes on what the next meal is going to be. In an indirect way, we affect the students in the kitchen. They can accomplish what they have to in the classroom. And for them to accomplish that, oftentimes that's going to better their situation for themselves, their family, and their community. So in a sense, helping the student in an indirect manner with the food is something that I really enjoy.
Columbus, Ohio has so much to offer our youth. The growth you can obtain from being a part of this district is huge. There is such diversity and learning experience happening throughout our K-12 buildings.
I love to see the excitement in the kids' faces when they know they can start school the very next day. So it's exciting for the families. So I think it's very impactful because it gives them that first start to, you know, learning and growing.
You know, I've been working with kids all my life. Coming here, meeting the students, the relationships that I've built over the years is just phenomenal. I mean, I'm seeing students, still see students to this day that thank me. Just, you know, thanks for everything you've done. Thanks for helping provide a safe learning environment. You know, thank you for the talks, you know, and they're really appreciative.
The district provides training throughout the school year and a lot of information that's constantly updated, and it's always available to us. So that's very helpful in being able to, you know, provide the best service to, you know, our students and parents. The diversity in Columbus and inclusion, it's unlike any other place, really. There's so many different cultures and you come in contact with just on a daily basis, you know, with our students and parents and teachers.
I've really enjoyed the last few years working here at CCS. It's got great benefits, the people have been great, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I've had other job offers, but I've turned them down because I just really like the people and I like working here.
Run to your computer and apply online. This is one of the greatest kept secrets in the school district, really. This is a great job. Just apply online, it's easy. We have, our training is excellent, and you know, we'll do everything we can to help you get through, and you won't regret it, I promise.
Hi, I'm Kerry Charles, and the big story this day, Columbus City Schools is welcoming leaders of all ages back into the classroom for the 2025-2026 school year.
Welcome back to the first day of school in Columbus City Schools.
Leaders are grown here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's
Tell
like
us
that, it's
about
all
that.
that random stuff that you like watch as a kid, and then you go, you're actually doing it. Like we did Dick Clark Rockin' New Year's Eve in Times Square, where we did the Macy's Day Parade,
And that
we
was
were
both
all
in the same year, right?
Ninja Turtles, yeah. And so it's like just bizarre stuff like that. I mean, playing.
Yeah, I mean, playing MTV World Stage in Malaysia was our
Yeah.
first like big international show. That was like we had a police escort to the show, and like there were thousands of people.
And we're
it
so
was
self-deprecating. We're like, we don't need cops to
Right.
like
Who are
escort
we?
us. And, like,
No one cares.
Yeah, it's just stuff like that, and then just it's such a gift too to like look out at shows and see faces from 15 years ago still coming, and so that's also a pinch moment. Like people care that much about our crappy little band. No, we're not crappy. We're good.
Our incredible band.
Our incredible band.
Well, we are so grateful that you're here today and took the time to do this for us and all of our listeners, and we love what you do. Yes. And congratulations on this latest album and all the success.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome, and we'll do our final giveaway after this final song that they take us out with, and it is Neon Trees. What's this last one?
We'll do Everybody Talks.
All right.
Hey baby, won't you look my way? I can be your new addiction. Hey baby, what you gotta say? All you're giving me is fiction. I'm a sorry sucker and this happens all the time. I found out that everybody talks, everybody talks, everybody. It started with a whisper, and that was when I kissed her. And then she made my lips hurt. chit-chat, or take me to your love shack. Mama's always got her back to rag when everybody talks back. Hey honey, you could be my drug, you could be my new prescription. Too much could be an overdose. All this trash talk making me itchy. No, my, everybody talks, everybody talks, everybody talks too much. It started with a whisper, and that was when I kissed her. And then she made my lips hurt. I could hear the chit-chat. Take me to your love shack. Mama's always got her back to rag when everybody talks back. Ooh, I never thought I'd live to see the day when everybody's words got in the way. Hey sugar, show me all your love, all you're giving me is affection. Hey sugar, what you gotta say? It started with a whisper, and that was when I kissed her. And then she made my lips hurt. I could hear the chit-chat. Ooh, yeah. Take me to your love shack. Mama's always got a back to rag when everybody talks back. Everybody talks, everybody talks. Everybody talks, everybody talks. Everybody talks, everybody talks back. It started with one whisper, and that was when I kissed her. Everybody talks, everybody talks.
What are we going to do? Well, there's a few, but now I'm holding a different guitar, so we'll probably do one of two. Let's do Another Way, which is the... so we're playing songs off of this new album, Beacons, that came out a little while ago, and we're in the middle of this big Beacons tour. The first disc is all what we're calling Americana, which is this electric... that word can mean almost
There's
everything.
a big umbrella there.
Yeah, pretty big umbrella. But we're playing some bluesier stuff. And again, we're coming from bluegrass. Disc 2 is all the bluegrass stuff with Jerry Douglas and Sam Bush and that stuff. But we're going to close. This is the song that ends the Americana side. And just say 2 words about it real quick.
Well, for the last couple of years, Eric and I just kept talking to each other, and I think talking to everybody I know, and just this term, we just kept saying these same words to each other, which is there's got to be another way for us all to live here on Earth and get along better. There's just got to be another way than what's happening right now, because it's just so awful for all of us. So many of us are in pain and hurting and divided. So this idea of there's got to be another way. So we wrote a song called Another Way, and we hope it touches you.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you all
Thanks
very
for
much.
having us.
Thanks so much, guys.
Sounds great.
I'm going to count us all in. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Tell you which one, 'cause I've been turned around here since the wheels first been spun. It's never made much difference, 'cause you end up where you need. Any old place to hang my hat is home sweet home to me. I've sold myself stories, pouring wishes down the well, convinced that this is how it ought to be. Been hunting my own footprints, chasing my own tail, lost in the same old reverie. Skies gonna clear someday. This and fly the raven's wing. But as long as you're a rambling, well, you'll have some song to sing. We marched in the cities, buried our heads in the sand. We had chosen sides and staked our claims. But isn't it a pity this eternal fight will end? Isn't it the time we made a change? Oh, hard times ain't here to stay. Our sky gonna clear someday. There's always another way, yeah. We've all got to find another way.
Greetings. Welcome to this week's highlights from across the district. On Tuesday, January 13th, students, educators, and community partners joined district leadership at Fort Hays Career Center to celebrate the return of the Pharmacy Tech program with a ribbon cutting in the newly renovated lab space. Students will begin the program as pharmacy technician trainees, completing hands-on rigorous coursework that prepares them to earn the Ohio State Board of Pharmacy Certified Pharmacy Tech credential. The program will serve 25 students each year, connecting them to nationally recognized credentials and real career opportunities in healthcare. Many thanks to Fort Hays Principal Erica Dodson and to our entire CTE team for their leadership and vision in making this program possible. CCS is committed to expanding college and career pathways that connect learning to life beyond the classroom. CCS students shine bright at the 41st annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday breakfast on Monday, January 19th. This year's theme, The Journey Ahead, Advancing Liberty and Justice for All, guided a powerful event. Each year, CCS student speakers are invited to present tributes during the breakfast. Board President Dr. Antoinette Miranda proudly introduced 3 dynamic CCS student speakers. Allie Russell Jr., 6th grade student at Indianola Informal K-8 School. Amaya Williams, 8th grade student at Westmore Middle School. Rebecca Ito Wu, senior at Columbus Alternative High School. In their inaugural appearance at the MLK Jr. birthday breakfast, Ali, Amaya, and Rebecca delivered memorable messages reflecting on the responsibility of every generation to uphold Dr. King's vision of justice, unity, peace, and love. To our CCS scholars, thank you for sharing your voices with our community and for reminding us that leadership is about stepping forward and continuing Dr. King's legacy through service and action. On Tuesday, January 20th, I had the pleasure to kick off our Professional Development Day by connecting with nearly 9,000 Columbus City School staff members through a State of the District webinar hosted from Huey A.G. Bell Elementary School. More than 200 staff members joined us in person, and teams across our 100+ schools and departments participated virtually. This was an important opportunity to share updates, reinforce our long-term vision, and ensure our staff remain informed and engaged as we navigate the work ahead. Following the webinar, I joined approximately 300 members of our transportation department at the newly renovated Whetstone High School auditorium, recognizing the critical role they play in ensuring our students arrive at school safely each day. Throughout both professional development sessions, my message was clear. Our staff matter, and students remain at the center of every decision we make. Thank you, CCS, for your dedication and commitment to putting students first. Choosing the right school is an important step for every family. That's why I want to invite families to join us on Thursday, February 5th, for our Elementary School Choice Fair, where parents and guardians can explore elementary school options across Columbus City Schools. Attendees will be able to connect directly with school leaders, ask questions, and learn more about the programs and supports available to students as part of the school choice and lottery process. Be sure to visit the CCS website for event details and additional information. Save the date! Columbus City Schools families are invited to the 10th Annual Summer Opportunities and Engagement Fair on Saturday, February 21st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Columbus Metropolitan Main Library. Families will have the opportunity to explore engaging summer experiences that support student learning, creativity, and growth in grades pre-K through 12. With more than 50 community partners on site, programs and resources will be available to support students of all abilities and learning needs. The day will include workshops, giveaways, and on-site registration for CCS Summer Experience programs. Register today by scanning the QR code and join us on February 21st to explore summer opportunities for your child. These have been your highlights from around the district for February 3rd. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. The regular business meeting of the Columbus City Schools Board of Education for February 3rd is now called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adair.
Present.
Vice President Ingalls.
Present.
Dr. Pierce.
Present.
Dr. Kennedy.
Present.
Mr. Simmons.
Present.
Mr. Katzenmayer.
Present.
President Miranda.
Present.
You have a
Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge Black History Month. As we observe Black History Month 2026, we mark the 100th anniversary of Black history commemorations first established in 1926 to ensure that Black history would be studied, honored, and preserved. Columbus City Schools has served this community since 1847. Over time, African American students' access to public education reflected broader societal conditions, with early Black education in Columbus often taking place in separate schools, churches, and community spaces, supported by families who understood education as a pathway to opportunity. In 1977, the federal court case Pennick versus Columbus Board of Education led to a judicial finding that the district's policies had contributed to segregation, and a comprehensive desegregation plan was implemented beginning in 1979. These changes expanded access for students and reshaped the educational landscape of the city. As schools were integrated, some Black schools were closed, and many Black educators experienced significant transitions in their professional roles. This period remains an important chapter in our history and offers lessons that continue to inform our work today. Today, Columbus City Schools remains committed to its mission to educate, empower, and inspire every student. As we recognize this centennial moment, we honor the resilience of our community and reaffirm our commitment to equity, excellence, and opportunity for all. We will now go through the agenda. I'm going to give a high-level overview. We'll be taking public comment. We will be doing executive reports, board matters, public hearings or notices of public hearings, the consent agenda, and executive session afterwards. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Second.
The agenda. I said the agenda, yeah.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, the agenda is adopted. We will now go to public comment. The first person has 3 minutes is Jennifer Creighton, a CCS parent.
Vice President Ingalls, Dr. Chapman, board members, parents, staff, and community members. I've come before the board previous times, but with a new board in place, I wanted to address you again. This time, it has to do with some criticisms I have for Dr. Chapman, but also some possible solutions, because I'm not one to just criticize without offering some things to think about. The first one being transportation. Transportation was something that when was discussed and voted upon, nobody really understood that the community would push back so hard in wanting to keep transportation an option all the way through our senior year students. Things like hearing, when I did a recent interview, in that same interview, Dr. Chapman saying, find me a district as wide and as expansive as ours, as large as ours, that offers the same transportation, K through 12. I did. I went to go look. I'm one to go research. And she is correct. We are the only district that does that in the 50 United States of America and its territories. We're also the only state that requires transportation for our CNP students. This needs to change, and it takes a united effort between board, between district staff, between parents, between community members, but sitting there and basically telling us to figure it out for our K through 8 lottery students that aren't 100% lottery isn't the answer. Most of our parents and families in this district have transportation barriers. We can't just get them to our choice lottery schools. As many of you know, my son attends a 100% lottery school. He goes from the west side in the Hilltop all the way to the east side to Boys Prep. He is grateful for that opportunity, gladly getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get on a bus at 5:30 because of the programs that offer him. He stays after school for the Driven Foundation, another important aspect in his education, and does not get home until 6:30. He does this willingly. I don't make him. He wants to. He's not the only one. And by ending transportation, while I know that this fight goes to the city and to the state and to the federal level, by taking this opportunity, we give every opportunity for charter non-public schools to take our students again, because guess what? They still get transportation, and they offer programs that we lack. St. Charles is a huge school that many of our Boys Prep students take. I have a letter that I've given you guys. I hope you continue to read it.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we'll have a CCS student, Colton Creighton.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, President Dr. Miranda, Vice President Ingalls, Dr. Chapman, Mr. Simmons, and CCS board members. I'm a student at Boys Prep, and I just want to address what I think about the budget shortfall and how we're spending our money. We made a $100 million levy that was passed in 2023 on building maintenance funding, and we spent it on remodeling buildings that we shut down later on. We did not use the money that was meant for building maintenance correctly. I think we should be spending our money correctly and not remodeling buildings that we're going to end up closing or sell. $100 million is a lot of money using that to remodel buildings is not needing maintenance, and buildings not needing maintenance is not using the money correctly. Boys Prep is in pretty bad shape. Lockers not working, lockers without doors, and breaking water fountains. Using that money for maintenance would be beneficial not just for Boys Prep and a lot of other students with legacy buildings that are not doing in great shape. I hope that we are spending the money right with this new board. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is Sheila Hill, a CCS parent.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Chapman. Thank you for your time and service to our district and for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Sheila Hill. I'm a resident of CCS School District, and my son currently attends a CCS school. Like everyone here, I want what is best for our children's education and safety. That is why I'm here this evening to address the issue of special education staffing ratios not being followed according to the Ohio Administrative Code. Under Rule 3301, 5111, Section 7I2E, an intervention specialist will serve no more than 8 children with multiple disabilities. Additionally, under Rule 3301, 5111, Section 7I2F, an intervention specialist will serve no more than 6 children with autism, deafblindness, and/or traumatic brain injury. My understanding is that these ratios are not being followed in my son's current placement, and that this is occurring in other special education classrooms across the district. When these ratios are exceeded, students are placed in environments that do not align with their IEPs. This violates their access to free, appropriate public education and their right to be educated in their least restrictive environment. And this is a direct violation of Individuals with Disability Education Act. These illegal ratios also create serious safety concerns. Many students in the classroom require small group settings to remain regulated. When classrooms are over ratio, dysregulation and aggressive behaviors increase, creating unsafe conditions for students and staff. Many of these students also have a high risk of elopement. Expecting two staff members to safely monitor 11 or more students in a classroom is high. Sorry, I lost my place. Is unrealistic and dangerous. These are situations where children can and have left the buildings, creating significant liability to the district. Teacher shortages are often cited as the reason for these violations, and I ask you to consider why there is a shortage, particularly in special education. Teachers report feeling unsupported, unheard, and unsafe. Offering additional pay for exceeding ratios is not a solution. It is unethical, and it does not address the root problem. Intervention specialists are carrying excessive caseloads, which compromises both student services and teacher well-being. I am also aware that this issue was covered by local media last school year, yet it remains unresolved. With upcoming funding cuts being discussed, families of students with disabilities are increasingly anxious. Student education resources are already difficult to access, and these conditions continue to drive families and staff out of the district. When ratios respect the needs of children and the well-being of educators, quality education becomes possible. I urge the board to take meaningful action to ensure compliance with state law and to protect our most vulnerable students. Thank you for your time and listening to the concerns of district parents.
Thank you, Sheila. Aaron Wasserman, CCS parent. Aaron? Okay, we'll come back in case he comes. Jack Ryan Foshi, CCS parent.
Hello, my name is Ryan Foshi. I have one kid who is in 3rd grade and attends Columbus Gifted Academy in the Short North. Very proud of him. He's a happy kid receiving a good education. Columbus Public Schools provides a high-quality education and opportunities for my kiddo that I appreciate. I've also been a part of the Safe Green Schools effort since the beginning. I'm here today in support of 13.2 on the agenda. It's about solar. The Safe Green Schools effort, which I see as an important effort to assist the school district in its internal operations and its public-facing image as a contributor to one of the most important efforts of our time, protecting the environment, which is really about educating students and adults and humans, saving on energy costs and actually becoming more sustainable in just one corner of our world. It is important that you act, and you are, so thank you. Thank you for passing the Safe Green Schools policy at the end of last year. I'm very impressed with the board. In the last 12 months of my advocacy, a lot has happened. I remember a lot of events, all different types, and things that have moved forward. So we keep moving forward. That's great. It's a good idea to focus on the most permanent, reliable, and useful properties in the CCS portfolio when it comes to installing solar. It doesn't particularly matter that much where it is, as long as it's implemented among your buildings in a sense of harnessing as much utilitarian benefit as possible. You should focus on facilities that are going to be in use for a very long time and where you can directly harness the electricity produced on site for your purposes instead of giving it back to the grid. That's just part of Ohio state law and the benefits that you get from that. They're not really there. If you can use it on site and it can stay a long time in that place, that's your best bet. Great job to the staff that have imagined the different places these projects can take place. And I think you're on the right track with this first one. In my professional career, in the past, I've advised city governments on their sustainability plans and their internal versus externally focused operations. I would say that you're on the right track to focus internally first to get the best cost benefit from your first projects. But don't forget about the intangible benefits or things that may not be measured. Things that are obvious are your utility bills, the direct financial savings that you'll receive. But the inspiration that you can provide to the community in demonstration projects or STEM learning opportunities are incalculably valuable and don't directly match up to the money that you're going to save, like other school districts have saved before you, cities and states. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Lori Reeder, CCS grandparent, is going to be speaking remotely. Okay. Frederick Garrett, CCS citizen.
Dr. Miranda, Vice President Ingalls, Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. Back, it must have been maybe, 2018, 8 years ago. February 6, 2018, I spoke on the mistreatment of black children in the school system. Today, my concern is the same, the mistreatment and the miseducation of black children in the school system. My first time speaking at one of these board meetings was back 1999. I guess that's, 27 years ago. I can't quite do the math. Anyway, what I've learned is that over the years, most of the people on this board, and the names and faces have changed, but the attitudes don't seem to change. Seems like most of the people on this board did not want to hear what I had to say or had no concern about what the public has to say. Because it seems like many of them only use this board to move on to the next appointed or the next elected position. But the important thing to know is while you're on this board, it's important to be concerned about the education of all children. So since my experience seems like you guys don't want to listen to me, listen to the what the media has to say. Here's a newspaper article. Columbus hands out more than 26,000 suspensions a year. That's from the newspaper. That's not me. High absentee rates plague Ohio schools. Newspaper. Grades bad for local schools. Newspaper. And you can probably find some good things, but I seem to find a lot of bad stuff. Because if you correct the things that are bad, correct the things that are going wrong, you end up with a better school system, a better performing school system. One thing that has concerned me over the years since 1999 is you have a book warehouse up there where all these probably thousands of books are kept. The public's not allowed to look at those books or even go inside there. Maybe some of you board members can take a look and see what are they trying to hide. I think the problem is you got two different curriculums, one for the white kids, one for the blacks. Check that out if you would and see if it's, see what they have to hide at the book warehouse on Hudson. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to call Lori Reeder, who is on the line. Lori, we can't hear you.
Can you adjust it in the back?
Someone's running around back there.
Oh, you know, I hear them.
Is Eric available? She could go back to Eric. That was an addition.
Lori, we would encourage you to write to the board directly. I don't know, we're going to move on. I don't know if we can come back to her. If we're able to get her, then we will come back and listen to her public participation if we're able to do that. So in the back, let us know if we're able to do that, and then we will put her on. Okay, we're going to go to board matters. Before we honor and recognize Cranbrook Elementary, I want to take a few moments to acknowledge School Counselors Week, which is celebrated February 2nd through February 6th. This year's theme, School Counselors Amplify Student Success, highlights the critical role our counselors play in supporting students academically, socially, and emotionally. So on behalf of the Columbus Board of Education, we thank our school counselors for their dedication to our students and for advancing the mission of Columbus City Schools every day. Love our counselors. All right, 4.1 is the Columbus Board of Education resolution honoring Cranbrook Elementary School 2024-2026 National PTA School of Excellence, and I will turn it over to Dr. Tina Pierce.
Thank you so much, President Miranda. Before we jump into reading the resolution, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank all of our board members. Last month, January, was School Board Member Appreciation Week. We did receive acknowledgments from other elected officials, such as Allison Russo. And so I just want to take a moment to just say this is a very thankless job sometimes. Kudos to all of my colleagues that are here tonight, that have been there before, that will be here in the future to do the great work of representing our students in our community. So thank you to our Columbus Board of Education. And now we jump into the resolution honoring Cranbrook Elementary School as our 2024-26 National PTA School of Excellence. And this is such a great honor because I had the privilege of going to Cranbrook as a student. So whereas Cranbrook Elementary has been named a 2024-2026 National PTA School of Excellence, one of only 330 schools nationwide to receive this distinction. And whereas the National PTA School of Excellence program recognizes schools and parent-teacher associations that demonstrate a strong commitment to building meaningful family-school partnerships that improve student learning, climate, school, and overall educational experience. And whereas research consistently affirms that family engagement and family-school partnerships are essential components of school improvement and student success. And whereas Cranbrook Elementary and its PTA began this journey through a shared commitment to strengthen family engagement, actively seek community input to identify needs, establish goals, and implement a plan of action. And whereas throughout the 2024-2025 school year, Cranbrook Elementary and its PTA participated in professional learning, peer collaboration, and continuous communication to support and sustain this work. And whereas Cranbrook Elementary is a Title I school serving a diverse student population, including 60% English language learners representing more than 70 countries, and 15% students with identified special needs, underscoring the importance of inclusive and equitable engagement practices. Whereas Cranbrook Elementary Excellence Team focused on supporting student learning by engaging families, implementing both short-term and long-term strategies to strengthen trust, inclusion, and partnership. And whereas the school implemented a series of family engagement initiatives throughout the school year, including Bridge Fest, Space Night, and Magic Night, designed to support academic learning, social emotional well-being, and community connection. And whereas this work resulted in the formation of 17 community partnerships and received positive feedback from families, staff, and community partners, reflecting a shared investment in student success. And whereas Cranbrook Elementary School's designation as a National PTA School of Excellence reflects the collective effort of students, families, educators, PTA leaders, and community partners committed to creating a welcoming and supportive learning environment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus Board of Education hereby congratulates Cranbrook Elementary School and its PTA on being named a 2024-2026 National PTA School of Excellence, and be it further resolved that the board recognizes this achievement as a model of effective family-school partnership, inclusive engagement, and community collaboration that advances student success. And be it finally resolved that the board expresses its appreciation to the students, families, educators, PTA leaders, and community partners whose dedication and collaboration made this achievement possible.
Thank you. I briefly wanted to say thank you to Dr. Pierce and the board for making this recognition for us. I want to thank the faculty and staff at Cranbrook. I'd like to thank Marissa Serker, our president from last year, who got this ball rolling and was the one who submitted all of our paperwork and everything for this. And I want to thank all of the Cranbrook families as well for working together to support each other. And I wanted to say that I think Cranbrook is an excellent example of what a public school can aspire to be. It's a place where the teachers care and they look out for their students and they help their students to feel safe and included so that they can learn and grow to be their best selves. I believe that having this school in our neighborhood makes it a better place to live. The PTA's mission statement is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. And I believe that's what Cranbrook does very well. It's a place where children are exposed to others that have very different experiences, but at the same time, some children are exposed to other children that have the same experiences they do. I think it's the kind of place that teaches children empathy and patience and understanding. And then these are traits that I think are very important to help children grow into being the best people that they can be. I know this is a challenging time for our country and for our city and for our schools, but I believe that the community around Cranbrook is what gives me hope for our future. And I know that we can find a better way forward. And I think that places like Cranbrook can help us see the way to doing that. So thank you very much.
And with such a thoughtful response and an acknowledgement of this great work, I offer a motion to approve this resolution.
Second.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Vice President Ingles?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Katzenmayer?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Dr. Miranda?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Congratulations.
We'll let them do it.
Okay. Moving on, 4.2, resolution to adopt the Professional Development Conference scheduled for 25-26 school year. Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, call the roll.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Katzenmayer?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Dr. Miranda?
Yes.
Vice President Ingles?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, tonight we take another step in the difficult but necessary work of addressing a portion of the $109 million projected budget deficit. This is not work any of us take lightly. These decisions are complex, they are consequential, and they require honesty, discipline, clear process, and a shared commitment to doing what is right for our students and our district. We want to be clear from the start. This board understands that budgets are not just numbers on a page. They represent people, programs, and learning environments. That reality is guiding every conversation we have. As we move forward, administrative reductions of more than $7 million is just the first step. That choice is intentional. It reflects our responsibility to look inward and lead with accountability. At the same time, we are working closely with district leadership to ensure that these actions do not negatively affect the teaching and learning environment for our students. To be clear, CCS added staff to deal with the challenges of teaching during the COVID pandemic and the aftermath, which is still felt in the classroom. The positions represent important work that took place. It is the role of the board to govern with fiscal stewardship, to prioritize resources in a way that protects classroom instruction and student learning to the greatest extent possible. That means protecting classroom instruction, supporting educators, and maintaining safe, stable schools while making the structural changes required for long-term financial health. These conversations will be challenging. There will be moments of discomfort, but avoiding hard decisions today only shifts greater harm to tomorrow, and that is not acceptable. We are committed to transparency throughout this process to listening to our community, and to putting students at the center of every decision we make. This is the beginning of the work. It will take collaboration, trust, and resolve. But we believe it is work we must do and work we can do together. And I will now turn it over to Dr. Chapman.
Thank you, Dr. Miranda, for providing me with an opportunity to discuss the central office position reductions on tonight's agenda. The central office personnel recommendations on tonight's agenda, as you've named, represent a difficult but necessary step for us in CCS to align our resources with district budget, our current realities, while maintaining our commitment to put students in classroom learning first. These reductions equate to a savings of $7,193,606. This amount is more than the $6.6 million goal directed by the board on December 2nd. I promise to lead with central office reductions to minimize the impact on classrooms, and we've kept that promise. December's board policy the board policy 1540 dictates how we must proceed with administrative position reductions and the suspension of admin contracts. These reductions are focused on positions and not people. Job performance was not a factor in these decisions. These are all valued employees who have led impactful work in our district. Specific individuals were not identified for reduction, only positions as a part of the process. But tonight you'll be voting on those positions and the impacted employees. We must remember our history. During the long COVID pandemic, the district leveraged new resources, such as ESSER funding, and added layers of support in many areas. We increased the number of supervisors, directors, and regional support staff to meet the needs of students and families during the pandemic and as we return to the classroom. Now, with fewer resources and growing inflation, we are forced to reduce those supports. Some of the 62 central office positions being considered for reduction tonight are already vacant or will be vacant due to pending retirements or resignations. Some of the leaders in active positions hold licenses that will qualify them for consideration for other CCS school-based positions. Decisions affecting our staff are never taken lightly. We took great care to deliver this difficult news to each of our impacted team members with compassion and respect. We'll continue to provide support for them throughout the 6 months of this transition. And as a point of reference, pre-COVID, we had 309 total administrative positions. This number includes school-based and central office positions. Today, we have 411 total administrative positions. These proposed reductions will take us to 349 school and central office positions. Our priority is to ensure that Columbus City Schools remain strong and stable, and so that we can continue to meet the needs of our students and our families now and in the future. Our work does not stop as a result of these reductions. While these positions may be gone, the mission and work of all of our central office team will continue to go on.
Thank you. So Resolution 4.3, reduction in force, will be put forth as a package resolution. If there is no disagreement, we will forward it as a package resolution and asking for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? Yes, Dr. Pierce.
Thank you so much, President Miranda. While Dr. Chapman noticed that this is, or cited that this is only a portion, and you indicated as well, I would like to remind our team as well as our community, that when these initial resolutions were passed, the date to which that the superintendent was to bring us potential cuts was January 31st. And that included the entire amount that the board took action on. And so I want to publicly put it out there that I am concerned that the entirety of what we need to make reductions on has not been presented by the date in which our resolution had indicated that it should be presented. So just so it's on the record that it's out there.
Thank you. All right. Yes, Mr. Katzenmeier.
Thank you. Dr. Chapman, were these also spread across the treasurer and auditor's office, and can you kind of break that down a little bit?
Yes, and I'll defer to my colleagues if they'd like to add additional context, but there were 62 admin positions that we are recommending for action tonight on the board agenda. And if I'm not mistaken, there were 2 positions from the Office of Internal Audit and 2 positions from the Treasurer's Office, but I would certainly defer to my colleagues if they have additional context or if that's not accurate.
That is correct. From my office, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, President Dr. Miranda. Dr. Chapman, I would like to, you talked about one of our policies, and I think when we embark on doing these really big shifts in how our organization functions, I think it's really important that we start with an understanding of, just what our policy says we're allowed to do, because this is the second time I've been a board member and we've started a really big process and we get into, the administration says it's time to do X, we do X as a board, we authorize it, and then we get a couple months down the road and the feedback is, well, this policy is too restrictive. It's not letting us do what we need to do. Those are conversations we really have to have on the front end. That way the board has the proper time to, whether send a policy to Policy and Governance, for example, or to bring a policy to the table and have the necessary, board superintendent dialogue about our policy. And, that is a requirement, of all of our direct reports to, continuously monitor our policies for ways to improve it. And so, it's really important. I hope we're able to revise that policy, before we embark on handling the rest of our remaining deficit. But I think it's really important that that's work we get done on the front end next time rather than on the back end. Because I think, the reason, as Dr. Pierce did correctly pull out, as I look at the resolution for the staffing reductions, it does say January 31st. But the reason that can't happen is because we have, it's been determined that we have to do this staggered approach and start with one group first and then move on to another group of employees and then another. I understand that's what we have to do. But, had we known that that's what we would have had to do a bit earlier in the process, we could have got the resolutions right back in December. And so I just think, again, when we start on just big shifts in how our organization operates, how many school buildings we're going to have, for example, how many staff we're going to have, what positions, it's really important we just look at what our policy is, what are the legal authorities we have, what are the legal limitations, because as you identified to us as our superintendent and CEO, this policy for you was a bit restrictive, and there were additional legal protections in our policy that went beyond the minimum required by the standard.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Simmons. I just also would like to name that while you named 2 policies, the council, we've been working with the Council of Great City Schools. They have also named that many of our policies bleed over into operations and are very restrictive. And so this is 2 examples that we've actually experienced and practiced in terms of how it impacts our operations. But they have also done a review. Dr. Miranda is aware of that data, but they've also done a review of many of our policies and noted that there's work to be done across the board for many of our policies that go above and beyond what typical governance would look like and bleed over into operations that cause more restrictions for the administration. So I think this is feedback that we should certainly take back to our policy committee, and we have feedback from the Council of Great City Schools that can guide us in that work, and we can begin looking at if that's something we want to make changes to. As a part of their work, they propose a policy diet for us, and so there's additional feedback as well as support to help us manage those conversations and support for the board work?
Well, I would say the policy diet is certainly part of our governance model, SOFG, and all of our direct reports have been tasked with implementing the policy diet because it's part of SOFG. And so I would encourage you all to bring us policy recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Dr. Pierce?
Well, I have a couple of comments. So one, I think with the policy diet, it is also helpful for board members to go through and review those policies as well. And A.J. Crable in particular, and I want to say our old treasurer, Stan Bahoric, helped to categorize or separate those so board members could actually go through and do that. So my request is if we could go back to that board meeting and look up what those recommended policies were, and then assign those to each board member so board members can start going through and doing that work. We've already done that. So let's go revisit that again. So that's the one request. The second request is, given that the resolution to direct the superintendent to develop a proposed staffing reduction plan is not ready because the date that resolution said was January 31st. Well, she has until the 31st of this year, I take it. When are we giving the deadline for her to come with the rest of the reductions? I would like us to identify a deadline for that staffing reduction plan as a board.
We can do that later. I think we're getting off of what we're supposed to be doing, which is to vote for these resolutions. We understand that this is really difficult, and as Dr. Chapman said, for reasons, we had to stagger administration first because people had continuing contracts. You had to figure it out. And then we will be doing the other two. But I think we can put forth dates if we don't have those dates. Dr. Chapman, I don't know if you have those dates.
Yes. So the deadline of January 31st, we were planned to have a board meeting on January 27th where we would have presented that. But I have the staffing plan ready to provide the board at tonight's meeting. So you'll have it in your hands tonight. That is on the agenda for discussion tonight.
So I echo my colleagues' sentiments in that when we are doing this big work, when we don't put dates and timelines around it, and when we can expect updates, the work won't get done. And we have examples of that happening. And so I think something has been mentioned with that date, but I would just like us a date on when we can get an update on the staffing report. And will we need to go back and do anything to those previous resolutions?
President.
Thank you. Ms. Adair.
Thank you. You mentioned in your presentation that you have gone over the number that was requested by the board. Can you talk a little bit about that and then what that means for the 50 million target? Does that mean you're going to be proposing more cuts because we do have another round that we have to do? So just kind of like the thought process about how this will kind of shake out in terms of the rest of the numbers that the board had put forward in terms of the recommended cuts for each of the other resolutions.
So thank you, Board Member Adair. In your question, I'm assuming that the board resolution directed us to reduce 6.6 million. That was aspirational to get to 6.6 million. And we're at 7.1, right? And so the question will be for the board, we're over the 6.6. So that means if we make no changes to the other resolutions, we will be over 50 million in all of the reductions. Or the board could make a decision to modify the second resolution that impacts certificated and classified staff, and that would actually save positions for our teachers and our classified staff. So that is something, first we have to vote on this resolution, which will actually give us an opportunity, some agency to have a conversation because we were over the 6.6. How do we want to make up for that cost savings? And could we save more classroom-facing positions, which we've been discussing throughout this entire process? So that will be up for discussion for future action.
Thank you. Dr. Pierce.
Okay, so if we're going back to do that, we did cut that original resolution from 34.6 million to 25.9 million. And we cut before we assessed or determined how the resolutions to then reduce transportation and also how the resolutions to reduce transportation could also help us save positions. So now is the request to take a look at the totality of all of those resolutions, because again, we voted on the reduction in transportation before we did the estimated costs. So we left, let me say this differently. When we did the resolutions to close schools, we did not take that money into account prior to changing the figure on the resolutions to reduce staff. We reduced staff and then we closed buildings. So now is your request that we go back and look at all of the total reductions and we can change that number even further, or still?
No. This is a consideration, a question for the board. We're talking about staff reductions. We have exceeded the board's directive for the admin reductions to the tune of $7.1 million. We have a question before us. The difference between 6.6 and 7.1, do we want to reduce the number of certificated and classified positions? We know that resolution was at 25.9. Or do we want to, again, we know that this is not the last conversation that we're having about budget reductions. So if we're over 50 million by maybe $500,000, that gives us, that starts the next conversation that we'll be having in just probably later this year, a few months, for the next reduction in $50 million. There's more work to be done, but there's also an opportunity for us to consider the impact that we want to have on staff reductions for the upcoming school year as we're having these conversations.
So just to clarify, when we took action on December 2nd, our board, and all of a sudden this is aspirational, but our figure that we came to was $50,453,610. We went over the 50 million. At that point, we could have assessed and determined how many more jobs could we save. So that 25.9 million, we could have actually maybe changed that to a higher number, because again, we closed the schools after we approved the cuts. So what I'm saying is right now you have cushion to save positions, and but you're saying hold off into the next 50 million in cuts. When I'm saying,
not what I said.
She's not. She
That's not
said
what I
we
said.
could do it this year.
so that's why I'm asking the question of can we and should we go back to that resolution where we said 25.9 million in cuts and look to see could that number be higher than what it is right now? Could we save more positions?
Yeah, we want it to be lower.
No, so what could it be? Could we save more positions
Yes.
by lowering that number?
Yes, that's what she is saying.
Yes.
That's what she's saying.
So
and the
we're
board-
going to go back to that resolution and change the figure.
That would be the question for the board.
That's the
board.
question that I'm
Question
asking.
for
Yes,
admin.
the board would have to make that decision whether we want to do that.
So again, my original question was, as a board, are we going to go back to that resolution and change the figures on it?
We can, but right now, we're talking about this resolution. So that becomes another conversation, and so we need to vote on the resolution that is on the floor. That's on the floor. Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, President Dr. Miranda. I do want to, just go back to one of the reasons why I think that figure has changed partially is because I understand it is prior to the start of this year, the Treasurer's Office was using more of an average to calculate that figure because maybe we didn't have the exact per position, we didn't have the positions identified to begin with, but then also maybe if we did, we didn't have the exact cost to employ that individual down. And that all goes back to our planning and process for how we do these big, or I'm sorry, Treasurer Cook, am I wrong?
No, you're correct. We used an average, but it was extremely fluid as we went through the process as we worked towards this final resolution.
Oh, okay, good to hear. But I was saying that I think that goes back to, the planning and process, and just putting things up against maybe a tighter than ideal timeline. And I do want us to have that conversation about, what to do with the remaining resolution. But I do think that would be more appropriate to have later, perhaps after our 5-year forecast, because, this isn't the last conversation, to Dr. Chapman's points about reductions we're going to have to do. And, we're going to have these continue to have these conversations. Thank you, President. Dr. Miranda.
Thank you. So we're talking about this resolution, 7.1 million. It is more than the 6.6 million. And so if we're ready to pass the resolution, roll call.
Mr. Katzenmayer.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes, with the recommendation that we have the discussion around the timeline at which we discuss the other resolutions to reduce staffing monthly or more regularly.
Vice President Ingalls.
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy.
Yes.
Ms. Adair. President Dr. Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. We also have 4.4, which is to freeze administrator salaries. Is there a motion to accept this resolution?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Second?
Second. Oh, sorry, I can't. Sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Katzenmayer seconded. Okay. Any discussion? If not, then if we can call the roll.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
I just want to, this was something additional. This was not part of the initial board resolutions. And I think that, again, our administration stepped up in this regard and, looked on itself and said, how can we be a solution to this? And really, it's about protecting the classroom. And so, this was brought to us as a way to, continue the effort. And so I just want to commend the administration on this. And I know that all of this is extremely difficult because this is humans and this is, positions and this is people's livelihoods. And so I just want to extend a thank you to you and all of those that will be impacted by this freeze.
Thank you, Ms. Adair. Dr. Pierce.
So with this resolution, is it possible to include the cost savings? I think as we think about, again, the effect that these resolutions are having, it would be helpful for us to know that figure, the community.
Mr. Cook, can you?
Yeah, we can get the figure on the estimated savings. It's not a budgeted item until it would have been board approved, so there's really no expense reduction. It's an expense that didn't occur, but we can certainly get you what that figure would have been.
And I appreciate that because, again, it is just informative to help the community understand what the cost savings are.
Yeah, we can add context, absolutely.
Thank you.
Can I say something about
Yes.
that? So again, just to be clear, what this really is freezing what we would call Me Too. So our administrators are not getting what was negotiated for some of our other staff. And so they have frozen themselves and are not taking the Me Too. So that's why it's money we have not yet spent.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so thank you for we are not spending that money. Therefore, it can be redirected in different ways, in different positions.
And also, following Mr. Cook, it would be estimated because we had not done it. It was not in the budget.
Correct.
So this is a projection.
Context would be helpful.
And it's central office.
And it's for central office. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Not,
So again, can
not
we-
building principals. It's only central office.
So whatever we release, can it clarify that it is for central office, that it's the Me Too clause? But I think it's important to
Yes.
give the context to the community.
So it's central office, to be clear.
In the resolution, it's stated as non-school-based administrator positions, or non-school-based.
Non-school-based. Okay, thank you.
I'm fine with this saying non-school.
Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, President Dr. Miranda. I did want to share, colleagues, we don't have a Me Too agreement with our administrators on compensation because our administrators are not in a bargaining unit. Our Me Too agreements are with our bargaining unit members.
Okay.
not with our administrators. And so I disagree with the framing that our administrators are not taking a raise. This is the leadership of our organization, the board, and the superintendent making a determination on compensation and the best path forward for our districts and for the education of our students here in this community. And then I did just have a quick question, Dr. Chapman. You said there was a staffing plan on the agenda, but I don't see that on the agenda. I misunderstood what you were saying about that in the dialogue with Dr. Pierce. Is this the staffing? It doesn't look like it is.
That is a part of the work plan that we're discussing
Oh, I'm
later
sorry.
this evening.
Understood. Sorry, I thought you meant, gotcha.
All right, we have a resolution on the floor that has a motion, a second. Are we ready to call the roll?
Vice President Ingles,
Yes.
Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Katzenmayer,
Yes.
Mr. Simmons,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
President Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, difficult. Thank you for that work that your central office did and for the board. We hit the mark. We still have work to do, so we can talk about that. All right, we're moving on to board appointments, 4.5. Delegate of the Ohio School Boards Association Annual Conference, Jennifer Adair. The alternate will be Sarah Ingalls. The legislative liaison will be myself. The Johnny Foster Minority Scholarship is Dr. Tina Pierce. It is to be announced. Okay, you understand that they never ask us, but in case they do, you will be there. Council of Great City Schools liaison is myself. OSBA Student Achievement Liaison, Brandon Simmons. OSBA Board of Trustees, Patrick Katzenmayer. And the CCS Transportation Work Group will be Dr. Jermaine Kennedy. The board committee appointments, pursuant to the authority granted to me under Board Policy 0155 and Board Policy 0173, I, Antoinette Miranda, President of the Columbus City School Board of Education, am pleased to announce the appointments of the following committees, committee chairs, and board members of the committees. Before that, I want to just give an outline of the work. All of the outline work of the committee lays the groundwork for the board to fully evaluate with community input the guardrails that correspond with board goals. In addition to work of the committees, the board leadership team will work to create additional opportunities to engage the community around various topics and concerns. It is the goal of the board to target the board's community engagement to be meaningful and productive. The community engagement should be targeted to answer the specific questions the board needs to identify answers to and should be geographically widespread so that all the major regions of our school community have a meaningful opportunity to engage. Previously, the board had a community engagement committee that specifically worked on developing plans to build in community engagement. That work will continue, but it will become a charge of each and every committee to find ways to build community engagement into their work. And speaking with the former chair of community engagement, Christina Vera, she supported this model as a way to more clearly align the community engagement work to the work the board is doing through its communities to largely address and guide the organization. Therefore, as you will see, community engagement has been built into each committee as a strategy and goal moving forward. Members of the committees will be asked if they would like to continue on the committee. Members of the Sunset Community Engagement Committee will be offered an opportunity to join one of the other committees where there are available spots. Where there are additional spots open on the committees, there will be an application process by which community members may submit an application to be considered for one of the committees and match based on skill set and interests and available upon spots. I will now run through the committees in a quick overview, providing the intended goals and outcomes of each committee and the expected outreach and engagement for each committee. Academic and Facility Alignment Committee, the board chair will be Jennifer Adair. The board members are Dr. Tina Pierce and Jermaine Kennedy. The committee is charged with engaging the community around desired outcomes for CCS students, which may include, but is not limited to, academic programming and opportunities for students, extracurricular and other programmatic support for CCS students, career academies, school lottery programs, and transportation. Before or while doing this engagement, the committee should have a solid understanding of what is offered by the district at each level of education so that by the end of the year, the committee can honestly and reasonably produce a report around what the community wants to see at every level of education and how much change that would require. The goal of the committee is to identify academic offerings, supports, and programs that the community wants to see in our buildings. The committee is charged with collecting feedback, data, and information to answer a series of questions. These questions are broken out with different goals now through June, and then again now through December. Now until June, the focus questions with the community should be: currently, where is the district? What does the district offer? What does the district not offer? Are you satisfied with what the district currently offers? Why or why not? And why are you choosing CCS? From July to December, the focus questions with the community should be: how can we get the community what it wants? What does it cost to give the community what it wants? And what are the barriers to giving the community what it wants? These questions will lay groundwork for future discussions around the goals and guardrails. They will also set the stage for the full presentation of a strategic plan that integrates the FMP. The Equitable and Transparent Resource Management Committee, the board chair will be Patrick Katzenmeyer. Board members will be Jennifer Adair and Brandon Simmons. The committee is charged with engaging the community around management of district assets and future use. This work should include discussion around recent board actions, the most recent FMP, and any strategic planning work that has taken place to date. The work of this committee should focus around the use of district assets and answer questions around future development, repurposing, renovation, upkeep, and potential revenue generation. The goal is to flesh out these questions more thoroughly and integrate them into an integrated and developed strategic plan. Now until June, the focus questions with the community should be: what will the board do with the 270 East State Street property? The committee should begin discussion about other administrative sites. Also, what will the board do with Broadley property? What will the board do with Moeller property? What will the board do with Fairwood property? Additional properties the board needs to immediately consider: and what was the previous FMP, and does the previous FMP work for the needs of the district, or does it need to be modified? From July to December, the ETR committee will work with the AFAC focus questions with the community should be: how can we get the community what it wants? What does it cost to give the community what it wants? And what are the barriers to giving the community what it wants? In addition, from July to December, the ETRM committee should also begin asking the community the following questions: what will the board do with the remainder of the properties that the board has previously voted to close? Please know that we have deliverables in June and deliverables in December that will be mapped out for each committee that we will present at our board meetings. Policy and Governance Committee, the board chair will be Sarah Ingalls. The board members will be myself and Jennifer Adair. The committee is charged with engaging the community around selected policies that merit such engagement and that do not amount to purely legal or compliance fixes. When possible and appropriate, the committee should give notice of changes to board policies that will be moved to the board table that do constitute a purely legal or compliance fix. Additionally, the committee may refer policies to one of the other subject matter specific board committees for input and review. The committee is also charged with assisting the board and engaging the community on topics of board governance where it is appropriate to do so. Now until June, the committee shall focus on the following policies that have been board requested and upon which working groups have been formed and are in the process of making recommendations: quality points, artificial intelligence, and Apex VCAP. In addition, the committee may engage in policy reviews and discussion on the following topics: additional necessary and immediate policies as recommended by the district's legal department, financial and fiscal policies as requested by the treasurer, additional necessary and immediate policies as required by state or federal law, additional necessary and immediate policies as requested by the superintendent or as recommended by the internal auditor, and additional necessary and immediate policies as requested by the board. From July to December, the committee chair shall work with the board and district administration to identify and evaluate which policies are most pressing and urgent for the committee to continue working on through the remainder of the year. Because policy is an area that is legally driven, and as needs change through the development of the strategic plan and work of other committees, policies may become priority throughout the year and will require additional analysis. I appreciate each member's willingness to serve and contribute their time and expertise to this important work. I think Dr. Pierce said it can be a thankless job, but we are very grateful for what everybody puts in. Please join me in thanking the committee members for their service and in supporting them as they begin their work. Also pursuant to the authority granted to me under Board Policy 0155 and Board Policy 0173, I, Antoinette Miranda, President of the Columbus City School Board of Education, dissolve the Community Engagement Committee previously established by the board as it will no longer function as a separate committee. I further direct that its purpose, responsibilities, and objectives be integrated into each of the other 3 board committees. All right. Superintendent, CEO, Executive Report. Dr. Chapman, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, I do have a report. I have a few remarks, and we'll be providing an update on the transportation work group.
Okay, thank you.
So, good evening again, and on behalf of all of our educators across the district, welcome back to all of our students. I know that our parents are excited that our students are back in their classrooms as of yesterday. And certainly, I just want to name and continue to thank our food service staff and all of our community partners that really stepped up last week to provide meals to our students during the calamity days that we had last week. We served over 1,300 meals at 5 different sites. I also want to thank Columbus City Council, Councilmember Christopher White, and the YWCA Family Center for providing hundreds of free COSI tickets to our CCS families at these sites as well. Our food service teams and our building teams did an amazing job of welcoming our families in during the cold and providing them with support as well as meal services. Their commitment reflects the heart of this district. Special thanks, huge thanks, and shout out to all of our school custodians who worked around the clock last week to ensure, prep, and prepare all of our buildings, our grounds, our parking lots, our sidewalks, to make sure that our buildings were ready for students and staff to return on Monday. They did a Herculean effort to ensure that the mounds of snow did not block the entryways or the parking lot so that our students and families could return. And special thanks to our comms team for ensuring timely, clear updates to reach our families all last week as we are pushing out messages in real time to make sure that our families had the most up-to-date information each day. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It was all hands on deck last week as we continue to pivot and plan for those calamity days. Also, I want all of our families to know and be reminded that this is the enrollment and school choice lottery window is opened. All of our families should have already started to receive communication about that. Enrollment for the 26-27 school year begins this week for students in kindergarten through grade 12. If any of our students who need to enroll or change their lottery options, they can do so now. Information on enrollment requirements is available on our website, or they can call our Central Enrollment Center. And the annual school choice lottery is now open for all families who want to apply to schools other than their assigned school for the upcoming school year, giving families options across all CCS schools. Applications are always submitted through Infinite Campus, the parent portal, and to be included in the lottery draw, families should submit their applications by the deadline, which is March 31st. And now, I want to invite our Chief Operating Officer, Maurice Woods, to provide us with a brief update on the Transportation Work Group.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Board President Dr. Miranda, Vice President Ingalls, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, Treasurer Cook, and Auditor O'Connor. I want to thank you for providing this opportunity to allow us to provide an update on the high school grades 9 through 12 transportation work group activities. As the superintendent mentioned, I'll be brief, highlighting 3 areas of this work to date. One, with the help of the leadership from CODA, the city, Columbus City Council, and the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, we have identified a cross-organizational work group of transportation, planning, data analysis, and traffic engineering subject matter experts. 2, a formal kickoff of this meeting is scheduled for this Friday, February 6th, and is being hosted by CODA. And 3, the co-chairs of this work group have had a few meetings, and their second pre-planning, or their third pre-planning meeting was earlier this afternoon. So we are ready to go. And in closing, I just want to remind this new board and some of the existing board members that the key deliverable of this work group is a January 2027 recommendation to the board on a plan for high school grades 9 through 12 transportation. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Dr. Chapman.
I have one question. Will you be giving updates as you go to the board?
Absolutely. Our plan is to provide quarterly updates to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miranda. That concludes my report.
All right. Mr. O'Connor, do you have a report for us this
President-
evening?
I think
Oh,
there's
sorry.
a question, Dr. Kennedy.
Do we need to update our working calendar for those updates for the transportation work group?
We can, well, it's quarterly, so we can make sure we put them on the calendar. So is that right, Mr. Woods? It's quarterly, so we can add those to the calendar, so we'll know when you're coming back to us.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we will get those on the calendar. Thank you. Okay. Mr. O'Connor, do you have a report for us this evening? Okay, thank you. And Mr. Cook, do you have a report for us this evening?
I do. It's time for our February 5-year forecast update. Forgive me, I continue to refer to it as a 5-year forecast, past history.
But it's now 3-year, right?
It's a current plus 3, yes.
Current plus 3.
Yes,
Okay.
3-year forecast, 1-year actual, yeah. All right, if we could, there it is, thank you.
And Mr. Cook, why are we changing the language? I'm sorry.
House
So
Bill.
everybody understands.
House Bill 96.
Thank you.
The state of Ohio has changed. We no longer have a 5-year forecast. It's basically a 4-year current plus 3 out. We as a district have made the decision, we will continue as a best practice to look at 5 years so that we can keep an eye on where we're at as we navigate challenges. All right, if we could pull up that PowerPoint again, please. Thank you. Okay, before we get to the numbers, I know we have some new board members. This is your first forecast for Columbus City Schools. Forecast is like a painting of the future based upon the numbers that we have today. The forecast, it's a key management tool that we update periodically, and it's a basis for management to communicate with the Board of Education. In any forecast, the numbers only tell a small part of the story. For the numbers to be meaningful and provide context, it's important that you review and take into consideration the notes. And I've provided those notes in advance of this meeting. We will make sure those are available on our website for our community members as well. The forecast encourages district management teams to examine future year projections and identify when challenges will arise. The entirety of the forecast is to help district management be proactive in meeting those needs. Take a look at where we're at, what assumptions do we have going forward, and how do we begin to maximize our resources. Why does it matter? 3 main drivers. It engages the Board of Education and, most importantly, our community in long-range planning and discussions of our financial issues facing our schools. Board President Dr. Miranda laid out committees tonight, discussions around FMPs, facility planning, and how that impacts the classroom. The financial projections are a key component to helping us navigate and plan in our committees and at the board table. Additionally, it serves as a basis for determining the school district's ability to sign the 412 certificate, as dictated by Ohio law, ORC 5705.412. I'm required, the board president and the superintendent, to certify that we have funds available to execute contracts with our labor partners as well as vendors periodically throughout the school year. Last but not least, it's to provide a method for the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce and the Auditor of State's office to identify school districts with potential financial issues. The forecast is divided into two sections, revenue and expenditures. The district's revenue is made up of two main sources, local and state funding. If you've had the opportunity to watch previous forecasts, we've talked about the 80-20 split between state and local. We're still very much there. Local 77.9%, state 21.1%, and non-operating 1%. Again, I think that's important as we hear a lot of the narrative around tax reform in the state of Ohio. We're heavily reliant, we'll see that in future charts, on property taxes to fund the basic fundamentals we do for students. Expenditures are mainly salary, wages, benefits, purchase services, supplies, and materials, the largest being personnel, as we've discussed tonight. Approximately 80.8% of our expenditures are people. A lot of discussion, unfortunately, around the budget reductions that we've had to make as a district. It's no surprise we're facing financial pressure with the action that's taken place at the state, the federal, the loss of ESSER dollars, et cetera. This forecast, like the others, our cash balance is actually negative beginning in fiscal year 30. We'll talk a little bit more about cash balance as we get deeper into the forecast. Expenses began exceeding revenue in fiscal year 25, last fiscal year, and that was to the tune of $22.4 million. The October 25 forecast compared to the February 26 forecast on our ending cash balance, the FY 29 and FY 30 projected cash balances decreased by 53.7 and 99.1 million respectively. Again, that's comparing October of 25 to tonight. Talk about these changes in revenues. We've updated our actuals for FY 26 and projected those going forward. That's a $12 million increase over the forecast. Property tax reform, House Bill 335 and House Bill 15. Board President Dr. Miranda had asked me earlier, what is the impact to Columbus City Schools on property tax reform? $17.5 million as we know it today. I will put an asterisk by that in that House Bill 335 is very dynamic. LSC has provided us with some preliminary estimates. Everyone is still working through what the overall impact is going to be as we go forward. But based on those estimates and information we have, to now circle back and answer your question, it's $17.5 million. All other revenues we've updated for projected interest on investments. Again, as we see our cash balance decreasing, obviously we know we're not going to bring in the same level of interest income that we had going forward, so we're constantly monitoring and tweaking that as we go. That's a $7.7 million decrease over the forecast. Overall, it's a net change of 0.28%. On the expenditure side, again, we've updated our actuals for this fiscal year and projected those going forward. We've also included a 1% increase in fiscal year 28 to fiscal year 30 for our non-personnel budget, just to capture inflationary pressure that we've seen. Very modest increase. That resulted in $700,000 over the forecast. A large item that cropped up late, our HR department has conducted an actuarial analysis of our district health insurance plan, and the results of that have had me move to our board caps on our district insurance. The total amount of that impact from where we had been previously to now is $93.4 million. So as we talked previously about that $55 and $93 million decrease in our cash balance, that's where the largest part of that is coming from in this update from October to now February. Overall, the net change in our expenditures is a shift upward of 1.71%, or $85.9 million. So we've seen tremendous upward pressure on our expenditures, primarily, again, due to that $93.4 million increase in our district health plan. Fiscal year 26 5-year revenue versus expenditure, excuse me. Again, cash balance is negative through FY30. Expenses exceeded revenue starting in FY25 and are projected to do so through the entirety of this forecast, FY30. Again, Dr. Chapman has spoke, the board has spoken, that just over $100 million reduction or $100 million deficit. We took a small bite of that with the $50 million. But as this forecast shows, our work still isn't done. The deficit spend continues, and then because of inflationary projections, takes an upward trend in the out years of this forecast. An important measure of a district's financial health is the days cash on hand. We've had some discussions around a cash balance policy 15 months or so ago. In 2026, we're projecting 99 days cash on hand. And by the end of this forecast in 2030, we're projecting a negative 30 days cash on hand. I want to hit pause on the forecast for just a second and circle back to our bond refunding that we're doing to save our taxpayers some funding. We've had a lot of rating agency calls, S&P, Moody's, and because of the nature of the shifts in the forecast, we've updated that. We've had in-person meetings. They have affirmed our credit rating, which is positive for now. But I want to talk about our cash balance and some of the insight that Moody's has provided me as they've analyzed our finances and looking at this $108 million refunding. So as we look to the future and plan for FMP, strategic planning, et cetera, that's going to require at some juncture a bond issue to finance new facilities. Moody's was crystal clear with me. They were happy to see that we've taken action on that first $50 million reduction, and they made it clear, kudos to the board. They are closely monitoring to make sure that we execute on that because they're seeing challenges across Ohio. They're well aware of tax reform. So they are focused in at a district level on making sure we can control what we can control. One of the notes that they had was a factor that could lead to a credit downgrade, which is not a great thing. We want to avoid that as we look to potential debt offerings in the future to finance buildings. Operating deficits that cause fund balance and net cash to approach 25% of revenue without a firm plan to stabilize operations. So what does that mean? What are they saying? Moody's is looking at our decreasing cash balance, and they know that we have a working 60-day cash balance right now, but we don't have a formal plan. So what they're saying is 25% of our revenue, and that mathematical figure on $899 million a year in revenue is $224 million in cash, just to give you some context on that. It costs us approximately $3 million a day to operate the school district. So if you look at a 90-day cash balance, for example, that would be $270 million in operating cash. So we're above what Moody's is recommending, but we're not too far off from that. So that really jumped out at me. Factors that could lead to an upgrade, which is a positive. A multi-year trend of at least balanced operating results that lead to a maintenance of fund balance and net cash near 50% of revenue. So again, that's some of the analysis they do with our finances, and they've seen them all from our audited financial reports to the 5-year, and what they're looking at is an independent rating agency on what they consider to be strong. They released this report, I believe it was on the 30th or 31st of January. I will make sure I send a copy of this to the board tonight. It is available publicly on their website. As we go out on February 11th to sell those bonds, investors are actually looking at this credit rating to determine our ability to repay the debt and how strong as an institution are we. But as we talk about in the 5-year forecast cash balance, I thought it was important to note some of the metrics that Moody's actually looking at when they analyze our data. We're getting there. Revenue versus expenditures. Again, look at that cash balance line. We can see the ending cash in green. I know I talk a lot about that, but that's the stability. That's what Moody's is talking about. And bear in mind, this forecast already has that $50 million reduction in it. It doesn't include anything past that, but what we're seeing and discussing tonight already includes the action that was taken, the $50 million reduction. So I want to make sure you understand that. Cash reserves. Bouncing around here. This isn't wanting to cooperate. There we go. So a 60 to 90 day cash balance is a responsible target at year end. We can't close our books with a negative cash balance. So as we look to those out years, again, we have to be proactive on what are we going to do to stabilize our fund balance. It's imperative that we begin to talk about that, find out what's the board desire, what are the plans, what's the strategic plan, and how do we meld our finances together with respect to that as we go forward. In conclusion, ongoing risks, ongoing personnel negotiations. The board had approved a 1% base increase. Again, I always like to highlight, we will negotiate in good faith with our labor partners. That's an assumption that we have to put into the forecast. And depending on where we land with negotiations, the board may decide to upward revise that, et cetera, as we navigate forward. Expenses, again, exceeded revenues starting in fiscal year 25, our deficit spend. We're facing tremendous pressure, property tax reform, 17.5 million approximately on the net with the impact. What does that mean, and what are we seeing as we go forward? House Bill 335 limits our revenue growth from our inside millage to inflation. The state's using a GDP deflator. Don't ask me what that is. They're still working that. Nobody's been able to really flush out what the mathematics are in that because, again, nobody knows what GDP is going to be 3, 4, or 5 years from now. But a cumulative average of the past 3 years with this GDP inflator, we're projecting 9.15% on inside millage and 7.65% for tax year 29. Still sounds like pretty good growth, but prior to that GDP deflator, we were forecasting 16%. So you can begin to see how we get to that $17, $18, $19 million decrease on House Bill 35 because they're rolling back the growth that we've seen in that inside millage. House Bill 15, it involves lowering tax rates to promote new energy investments into the local area infrastructure, as well as updating existing energy infrastructure. House Bill 186 doesn't impact us now. However, the 20 mil floor is coming. House Bill 186 caps revenue growth to inflation, again, using that GDP deflator, when you're at or below the 20 mil floor, which we are expecting to be at in fiscal year 30. Again, depends on reevaluations, et cetera. What is the 20 mil floor? I think, An easy way, at least to me, to try to explain this is think of the 20 mil floor like gap insurance. If you were to buy a car and you finance $50,000 and you drive it off the lot and you get in an accident, if you have gap insurance and it's depreciated down to $40,000 or whatever it is when you drive it off the lot, that gap insurance covers the difference on what you owe. You're held whole. So the 20 mil floor, as House Bill 920, for lack of a better word with that analogy, wrecks our millage, rolls it back. The 20 mil floor serves as that gap insurance. So in this example here, we're projecting in tax year 29 potentially being at 19.39 mils. What the 20 mil floor says is you as a district cannot receive less than 20 mils. So the district is pulled back up. The taxpayers would pick up that 0.61 mil to hold us whole. It's more revenue, it's growth that we would receive as a district. It's why approximately 75% of the districts around the state are going to be at the 20 mil floor, because they made the strategic decision years ago to do emergency levies because they didn't count against that calculation. They didn't roll back. It was a fixed dollar amount, so they didn't feel the House Bill 920. They received a dollar amount. We are, with our reevaluations, potentially going to be at the 20 mil floor. So again, our growth is going to be capped with House Bill 186. While we're not feeling that today, we're just a few short years away from that reality. I have no idea what the state may or may not do in the future with future property tax reforms. But again, it's important to note, 80% of our revenue is property tax based locally. So we are very, very, very heavily dependent on what happens with property tax reform, as well as that potential ballot issue that's looming out there as well. So there's several risks and challenges that we face. We're beginning discussions, we're taking action to begin to control the budget the way that we can, managing our expenses. But as we've said, there's more work to be done. We still face significant structural deficits in this forecast with those reductions. So with that, questions?
Dr. Pierce.
We have had a lot happen with finances this evening. So I
Just a
have a
bit.
couple of questions.
Sure.
To make sure I'm following. So when you initially gave us this report, our goal was to have a meeting on the 27th to be able to approve this particular forecast. Am I following correctly?
Yes, the goal was to present the forecast on the 27th. We have to seek approval tonight because of our refunding. Dr. Roush is literally going to hit send if it's approved by the board, because we have to update our preliminary offering statement. We're going out to market on February 11th to refinance just over $100 million in bonds. One of the things they need is the updated 5-year forecast.
So before I make the motion that we need, because we need to update our 5-year forecast, I just want to make sure that I'm following our numbers correctly. December 2nd, the board took action to approve estimated cuts of $50,453,610. This evening, we have effectively approved those cuts at 7.1 or 7 million. Is it 7 million?
7 million, just over 7.1, I believe.
7.1. So my
7.1, I
first
believe,
figure
yes.
was right. 7.1 million. But then this evening, you brought an additional impact related to our health insurance, where we are being impacted by an additional 93.4 million.
That's correct.
So it's really becoming important for us to take action to make sure that we're following our timeline as it relates to our financial position as a district.
Yes, I would echo that. So the impact, to put it in context to that, the $50 million reduction over 4 years would be approximately $200 million. The insurance impact is approximately half of that at 93.4. Yes. We also have, for clarity with the reductions that were approved in December, we had a placeholder in there for just the $50 million. We didn't know what buckets they were going to go into yet. We have now reflected those into actually personnel, supplies, material, et cetera. So they're in here.
So one final question.
Yes.
We still really need to get to that 50 million. So we're at the 7.1, but we really need to hit that 50 million.
Yes, that's been board approved. It's reflected in the forecast and will continue to be monitored by my office. We will again most likely provide some sort of an update in May. On the normal old timeline, we'll do a recast just to let the board know where we're at that point in time. And then again, in August, we're required to present another forecast. So much like Moody's, we're going to continue to monitor that and watch it. But that number was board approved, so it's still reflected in the forecast, and I will update accordingly as we go forward.
Thank you. Other questions, Mr. Simmons?
Thank you, President Dr. Miranda. Treasurer Cook, I did want to ask with the forecast. So I understand, we put the $50 million down in there as, one item initially. And then when you started to go into the buckets, you used the exact figure that the board voted on, the 50.4, the 50 million, and then it was 50,400,000 something. So
Yes.
Okay. So because we approved more than the so far, if we continue with the board direction to the superintendent and she brings back legislation responsive to the board's directive, we would be over the amount that we approved on cutting. And so that would show up on the forecast down the road as a variance.
That is correct. We would note that
in-
as
in
we
the
say, we
management
true up
discussion
the act.
analysis.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
that is correct.
Thank you. And then I did want to ask, before we get to the legislation on the consent agenda to approve the forecast, because of the timeline, I'm not sure when the law actually, changed the cycle. Are we approving a 5-year forecast or the 3-year? Because the agenda says 5 years.
We're approving our 5-year. We're going to submit to the state the actual current plus one, I'll call it the 4-year forecast. We're internally monitoring that. I can submit 5 to the state, they'll zero it out. They're not paying attention to that. So we're doing that for our compliance monitoring, but we will submit the forecast, as they now call it, to the state.
Okay. And then just the last point of discussion I have is I would really like our board to have some discussion and dialogue around the cash balance policy. I do think it's important we have some guardrails and for it's a common policy that many school districts here in Ohio have, and I think it's a best practice that's been identified both by the Ohio School Board Association and lots of school boards in our region. And so at some point, I hope us to be able to have some dialogue and discussion about that.
I would agree with that.
Yes, Ms. Adair.
Treasurer Cook, can you maybe explain at a very fundamental level to the community about why we are seeing this budget crunch right now? What is going on that is making us really, when I look at this, it makes me sick to my stomach? What is going on that is causing this to happen where we do not have the funds that we need to properly educate our students?
I think the easiest way to say it would be they have not funded the Fair School Funding Plan adequately, which, as we've talked over the last several forecasts, has shifted more of the burden to our local tax base. We continue to advocate. Dr. Chapman and I testified to that. They need to fund the Fair School Funding Plan. That is the most equitable formula that I've seen, and the lack of funding to that has decreased the resources available to the district to educate students. I think that would be my simplest. Fund the Fair School Funding formula.
And you mentioned that the burden is really, they're shifting a lot of the burden back to local. And this isn't just here at CCS, this is all over the state. And you have projected that if we keep going at this rate, about 90% of the tax burden will be on our local tax base in a few years.
Yeah, we'll be at the statutory floor. We're close to that now, where state chips in no more than 10%. So I think, yes, that's a problem. Again, we're having these conversations around property tax reform and the impact that it's having on, to your point, not just our community, but those around the state. But yet, they are forcing us back to the very communities they say they're trying to provide relief to. Our option as a district right now, when our revenue shortfalls occur because they're not funding the Fair School formula, is to go back out for additional resources. That's a levy. That's property taxes. I think this is a massive issue that isn't getting enough attention. I think they're strangling our finances. We're having discussions around property tax reform and how that's going to provide relief to the tax base. But then again, they don't fund the formula, which forces local governments to go back out on the ballot to seek property tax reform. All of which then again comes back, in my estimation, to hurt the students in the classroom. It takes away the resources we need to properly and adequately fund education.
And Treasurer Cook, when, I hear all the time in our community, why CCS? Why? Why do you have to keep coming out for levies? Because you keep coming all the time, and we just gave you one, and we cannot afford it. Why is it that the amount of the levy, you said this, but I'd like you to maybe say it in plain English. Why is it the amount of the levy that we go and ask for doesn't sustain us in perpetuity?
House Bill 920 removes the ability for us to get growth or inflation on our millage. It actually rolls it back so the district doesn't see those increases. House Bill 920, as I use that car crash analogy, wrecks our millage. It forces our hand as a district to go back out because there is no growth. It rolls that millage back. We saw that, I wasn't here, but in 2023, when the levy passed, I believe it was asked, let's say 7 mills, I'll get the exact. By the time we began to collect on that, it was passed in November and collected in January, the millage was already reduced just because of the timing of updates. So that's really what House Bill 920 does, to your point. It does not allow us to capture growth in a high inflationary environment. Our revenue basically is stagnant, and now they're clawing back on the inside millage growth we could have received from 16% to 9%. That's $20 million we're not going to have to put into the classroom. That's a problem.
And last question. I know that, we're in the process of this property tax reform, and there's a lot of different things on the table. But, if there are major changes to the way that districts, all school districts in Ohio, receive funding through property tax, are you aware, as our treasurer, as our professional financial expert, if property taxes are not available to us, how do we fund our institution of government?
That's a great question. I'm unaware of any fix as proposed by the state at this point. That's a problem.
Thank you. Ms. Ingalls?
I guess I was just going to ask on future bills that you have certainly been monitoring in the legislature. It seems like the bills that you have highlighted talk about the revenue that is generated through levies that already exist, and there could be conversations around assessment and the process for assessment and how that may affect the fiscal and financial future of our district. And so have you seen any other bills that you are monitoring currently? You don't have to go into detail with them, but do you have concern about future possible legislation that could impact the financial health of our district?
Short answer, yes. There's a lot out there. One thing that I'll note in this forecast, the tax commissioner came out in the sexatriennial, the 6-year update. He has the statutory ability to shift that a year. We talk about hitting that 20 mil floor. That was pushed out a year. Can't change the triennial updates. There may, in fact, be legislation that perhaps comes along, et cetera. But yeah, we're constantly monitoring those. I would say, Dr. Roush and I'll call us a bit of policy wonks on that, if I may. But we hear every day, it's not great news. What I don't yet know is what's being talked about is actually going to be introduced and what's going to stick, if you will. But the threats are real. I mean, they're coming. They're constant. They're nonstop. I hate to see what's happened to the fair school funding formula because, again, I started in this environment with what we called residual budgeting. It was, the state did their math and you got $50 a student and, I hate to admit it, you were happy to get an increase. I fear we could be back to those days versus what does it take to appropriately educate a student based on real numbers that districts are putting out there. So yeah, it's a problem. And I think, again, with 80% of our budget, there's a lot of threats on the horizon and on the environment. And as we see those really drill down and target us, we'll certainly keep you aware of those. But there's too many potential items out there to really count at this point in time.
Mr. Ketzmeyer.
Thank you, Treasurer. This, the insurance premium actuarial swing seems large and about $20 million a year over the course of the forecast. Is that right?
23.5 million per year.
Okay.
Again, I've met with the individual once, heard it, fell out of my chair. We had a follow-up meeting to say, okay, here's what we've seen, here's where we've been. Where do we need to be in the future on that? And that is the projection he gave us. But yes, to your point, $23.5 million a year over the forecast.
Do you have any inclination of something that's changed or something that we need to change or think about with our policies to prevent that?
I do not. I know that our HR team, Dr. Chapman's team, is working on that with Steve Parsons is the actuarial firm. I'm not privy to all the nuts and bolts as to what has caused that. I was really brought into the conversation because I needed to get a forecast put together. I knew that they were looking at some shifts and find out, okay, what is this financial impact? A, to get into the forecast, and B, I had a bond issue that we were refunding out here, so it was a material change. But yeah, I know they're working with him. I don't want to put Dr. Chapman on the spot, but I know they've carved out some time in the future, if you want to speak a little bit to that.
Yes, so this, certainly we've been engaged in learning more about what has significantly increased those rates regarding our health plan, which will certainly require, additional conversations about plan redesign. But once we have all of that information finalized, we'll have a more thorough, detailed update to provide the board. And I think we have time calendared soon to have that conversation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Treasurer Cook. This really is a question around collaboration and how closely or how is this forecast really aligned with Dr. Chapman's work plan priorities, particularly when we look at those assumptions around enrollment, optimism around 1% in labor negotiations. How does that all factor into play?
So we really haven't done any work around where we may or may not land with respect to negotiations. Every week I get an enrollment report. My team works closely on that. We're constantly taking a look at where we're at with respect to staffing. It sounds like tonight she's got some information she'll share on that. I'm confident that once that staffing plan is developed, we will have conversations around that, because when it's 80.1% of our budget, it's a huge impact. I can tell you, as we've navigated these cuts, we've seen our teams fly up and down the stairs, in some cases literally with things to look at, numbers we need to cast, et cetera. So I would say close, and I expect that to continue. I think when we're in this financial state, it's imperative that the two of us work closely together frequently and often to make sure that the information I have and the things that my team is seeing through a fiscal lens encapsulates and captures what they see on the academic lens, if you will. So I think that's critical.
Yes, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, President Dr. Miranda. Treasurer Cook, I did just have a couple questions. So I understand that this forecast covers our general fund, but we of course have other funds. And so at this point in time, are there any other funds besides the general fund and the insurance fund that we have identified that are at a state of deficit spending? And it's okay also if you don't have the answer right. That's something, feel free to follow up.
Yeah, I will confirm and follow up. I would say WCBE is of ongoing concern, or if you're not aware, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting has ceased operations, and we received some funding from them. The board has traditionally here transferred around $700,000 a year. With the loss of funding, we're projecting at least that this year. That does have, to your point, an impact on the general fund. I think health insurance has been deficit spend. I'll have to get you the exact figures on that. It's certainly been exacerbated by whatever the actuary seems. I would say with insurance, dollars in, dollars out are claims, so there's something moving there, and I just don't know what yet. Those are the big ones. Our grants and student activity funds will typically run in the red throughout the year, but that's because they're doing, a fundraiser, grants or reimbursing. We'll submit our consolidated applications to the state of Ohio. There's a lot. Just for context, our general fund is $1 billion in appropriation. All funds is $1.67 billion. Our anticipated revenue to the general fund is just under $900 million. So we've got several hundred funds, but I think those are the biggies. I will, if you don't mind the opportunity, take a look and just confirm, but I would say health insurance definitely has some struggles at hand. WCBE is a big one that's been ongoing because we transfer funds. General fund, as we've discussed tonight's in the deficit, didn't mean to neglect that.
On the topic of WCBE, so with the loss of the funding from the grant from the corporation the Public Broadcasting Corporation, with the loss of that funding, does that mean in the next fiscal year, WCBE will have to either reduce the services it provides or find a way to make up the hole that grant has created?
I can't speak to the services, but I would say they're definitely going to have some discussions around that revenue. If they can't raise the revenue, what we have historically done as a board is transfer funds in at the end of the year to help sustain them. I'm just not intimate enough on what they can or can't do with operations.
Right, but I have concern continuing to do that because I know the grant from the federal government was significant in terms of a share of their budget. But I do want to move on just to the current state of deficit spending out of this fund. So we've already addressed the $50 million, and we addressed $15 million before that. What's the current remaining balance to be addressed by that 0-day cash in order to get that number to not be in the negative?
Yeah, so if I understand the question, what after we've taken this $50 million bite of the apple on our $100 million deficit, how much is left?
Right. Now that we have this new information.
Yeah, in fiscal year 27, we're projecting $59.9 million in deficit spend in the general fund. And for context, as we get to fiscal year 30, it's $116,400,000. And again, that's driven upward primarily by our $93.4 million health insurance as we've seen going forward. We see continued pressure on inflationary pressure with expenses, but we've reduced 50, which dropped us down from that 100 to, let's say, 50 for easy math. And then in these out years, as we face inflationary pressure and growth and rising expenses, we're back up to over $100 million at the end of this forecast projected.
Okay. And now, I know we've had a lot of conversations in the past about when is the best time to tackle our remaining deficit. You just told us about those inflationary pressures that will push that number upwards as time goes on. And so, I'm not going to ask for a formal recommendation because I don't want to put you on a spot. But
thank you.
Do you have any ideas or thoughts about the timeline for us to tackle that? You're saying by August of 2026, calendar year August this year, fiscal year 27, we're going to have that 59.9 deficit that we're going to have to either reduce expenses or decide to carry over into the next fiscal year.
Yeah, I think the conversations are continual and ongoing. I know Dr. Chapman has been, I would say, crystal clear with we're not done. To your point, and I thank you for that, I'm not ready to put a number on what the next round will be. I'm very much in the mindset of I want to get this one effectuated, make sure we've hit the targets where we're at, update the forecast, true it up, and then begin to have those discussions as we go forward. However, I think it is fair to say that we're staring at anywhere between a $59 million deficit in 27 all the way up to 116. We still have significant work to do. I will also say there's 2 state budgets. Nobody wants to talk about it. We've got to wait and see with property tax reform, but is there a balance in there? Increase revenue, decrease expenses, or kind of a combination of the two of those? Those are all scenarios that, to Dr. Kennedy's point, we're going to be working with as we navigate various challenges we face from transportation, deficit funds, and WCBE, et cetera, and then work with the board through committees to make sure we're projecting, we have a handle on where we're at, what the academic vision is, what the facility vision is, and how does that all intersect at the financial.
Right, but I don't think the next state budget will be more advantageous to all students in Ohio, but particularly urban districts and urban students. I think it's going to likely continue to become less favorable.
I think we've seen the high water mark.
And, I certainly would encourage us, when we have discussions around our legislative platform, so sometime this year that the board is supposed to vote and approve on, ever so often, I'm not sure. Certainly asking for some expanded opportunities to collect revenue. Our only options really are property taxes or income tax, and if we do that, there's a lot of, it's not the same as if a city in Ohio does an income tax.
Correct.
So certainly seeking other legal authority to collect revenues. I don't know whether that's allowing school districts to put a tax on, alcohol and cigarettes or, hotel beds. I don't know what it is, but, I think that's probably, more likely than just simply asking the state to give us more money. Maybe they'll give us more authority, but more money at this point, that doesn't seem likely in the upcoming.
Yeah, I can tell you we've had those conversations in my office. We're always looking for alternative revenue streams. There's some districts up north that, with respect to facilities, they've passed a sales tax to fund facilities. We can't do that for operating. But there's some things out there, and I think to your point, we've got to continue to communicate with our legislators. We've got to impress upon them the need for strong, local, public educational institutions. It's the bedrock of our community. So I think we'll continue to have those conversations. We have them frequently with legislatures. I would anticipate that pace to pick up just in the environment we're in.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, Dr. Pierce.
So I have one question and then I guess one comment. Treasurer Cook, when you talk about grants, can you specifically speak on the impact of Medicaid grants as it relates to our district and how it is affecting or impacting our budget?
Sure. So we have historically done, the last several years, I'm going to give kudos where kudos are due. Auditor O'Connor's done a tremendous job working with our team around Medicaid and the funding and Medicare that we get. That has grown to approximately $7.5 million a year. Just a tremendous upward tick, again, dollars that we can now reinvest in the district. In our forecast, we have begun to back that down just because of the narrative we see at the federal level around that. I know there's expansion programs that are taking place. Again, there's some conservancy there as we wait to see and digest what the federal government's going to do. But Auditor O'Connor and the Medicaid team, Mickey, et cetera, the folks that I've interacted with, we understand what a tremendous resource that is. I do. Anytime you see that growth from a couple $1 million, which isn't pocket change to us as individuals, but they've been able to put that on an upward trajectory to $7.5 million a year, that has a measurable impact. I think it's critical that we continue to seek every dollar we can on that reimbursement. I'm confident the team can continue to do that. I'm in constant communication with Auditor O'Connor about that impact. And again, every dollar we receive can and will have a meaningful impact on the classroom.
I appreciate that. So again, this evening, we see that there are a number of federal as well as state policies that are impacting public funding in our district in particular. And as we think about, again, in December, our board was very committed to saving as many positions as possible, decreasing that $34.6 million to that $25.9. I think even as we move forward, understanding that we have a lot of work to do, when we are figuring out what that next step is, I really think there's a sense of urgency on the part of our board to have the larger dialogue at the board table so our community is fully aware of what we are up against, some of the challenges that we face and the opportunities that we have. And so as much as possible, if we could go back to our working calendar and figure out how more of these financial discussions can be fit in, whether through the board table at our public body meetings or through ETRM, which will now be chaired by Mr. Katzenmeier, I think it's important for us to really dig deep into our budget and again what those challenges and opportunities are.
Again, I thank you for the questions. I apologize for the timing on presentation and then approval tonight. It is listed in the consent agenda for approval.
Yep.
Were we? Sorry, I was waiting until questions to make the motion.
You're okay. Well, it's part of consent.
Yes,
Okay.
it is part of consent.
Okay.
Well, there we go.
But just everything you said, I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that a lot of this we can't control. And that's what is frustrating, is that we can't control the legislators.
That's right.
We can try to influence them, but we've also seen that hasn't been too successful.
Yeah.
But I think we continue to do that. And then, as you said, begin to look at, are there other streams of funding that we can get? Otherwise, we'll be back at the table for levy. But we are not the only district. In fact, every district in the state of Ohio is facing this.
Yeah.
Every district. It's just that because we're so big, our deficit is bigger. So
Yes.
another district's 8 million is huge to them.
Yes.
We think it's chump change compared to ours, but I think it's important to understand that every district in the state of Ohio is experiencing this.
Yeah, we talk in terms of dollars here, and they're large to your point, but, you know, a 4% deficit or reduction in ours is the same impact that a 4% reduction in a smaller district is going to feel. At the end of the day, those are still students we're talking about. Those are still dollars they're not going to have available on the educational side. So yes, we get that target because of our size and scale, but to your point, public education across Ohio is feeling this impact, again, of the lack of funding on that Fair School Funding Plan.
So we also have to make sure we are always on top of legislation that's coming down the pike that affects education. So always being on top of that. Okay, any other? If not, we will move on. It's getting long into the night. We are now ready to approve the consent agenda. We are going to consider our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of items 9.1 to 23.8. Are there any items a member would like to have removed and voted on individually from the consent agenda? If there is none.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
A discussion point.
A discussion point, okay?
Yeah, I just want to call out 13.2. I know our public speakers did a really great job of that today, so I won't go too long. But the authority to purchase solar carport, it's a great start in the move towards solar energy and green sustainability. And so thank you so much to our team in the back who has been doing this work. Hi, Jeff. Appreciate you all. Appreciate you all for advocating for it. This is really exciting and a good step in the right direction.
Thank you. Dr. Pierce?
And I just want to point out 15.3, this evening, we are approving, if it has not been changed, approval for our 12th graders at East High School to go on a tour of our historically black colleges and universities. And so that's definitely fitting that that is happening in Black History Month, but it's also fitting given the conversation that we've had tonight around public education. When we see that our students are achieving and doing great things where they will contribute to educating future generations by being teachers, by being lawyers, by being public servants, we need to highlight that as much as possible. So kudos to all of our students at East High School throughout our entire district as they prepare to fill out FAFSAs, college applications. And if I'm not mistaken, I know I Can's Founder Scholarship application, I think, is open. So kudos to everybody that's helping our students be successful.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no other discussion, we'll call the roll for the consent agenda.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Katzenmayer?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Vice President Ingalls?
Yes.
President Dr. Miranda?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. There's no other legislation. Vice President Ingalls?
All right. It is recommended that the Board of Education move immediately into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing, and G3, to confer with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of the pending motion or imminent court action. That is a motion.
Second.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Vice President Ingalls?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Katzenmayer?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Dr. Miranda?
Yes.
Motion carried. You're in exec session.
No.
We're in after executive session. Just, you can say we won't.
We just get up.